Recording, so I don't make that rookie mistake.
All right.
Man, fuck. I was trying to think the other day, leading up to this, like how long it's actually been, not only just since we've done this, but like since we've seen each other. I think it's been at least 2 years or so.
Oh, I think it's been longer than that. Wait, when was the last time we saw each other? Because I'm picturing the Knock Loose tour, which was like 6 years ago now.
The Knock Loose one was the one where Vincent and you basically made headlines for saying nostalgia is stupid. And there was the one
nostalgia was stupid. I said new metal sucks.
Same difference. Well, that's what's in right now is new metal, so it's all relative.
Still sucks.
Sucks. No, I think that was that tour. And then the next tour we did something is when you had the Christmas lights and all that shit in the rented van, which I think was a headliner for Wormwood, maybe.
Yeah, that would make sense. The It Comes in Waves Wormwood tour.
Yeah, and then you guys did a show in Detroit that I just couldn't make it out to, and then I think after that you were done.
Yeah, I think that all sounds correct.
Yeah, I don't know. I swear I don't know that much about your personal life.
It's been a second either way. I'm glad to see you. Thanks for having me.
I was trying to like just think about like for even myself, like what the fuck has happened in my life to kind of as like a launching off point. And I mean, like, don't have to get into like any of this shit, but I mean, it's like at this point, like not much has changed in my life. I had foot surgery in the last like 6 months ago, and that basically was just like the worst fucking 3 months of my life ever. But I was like thinking about it, I was like, you in that time left Taz, got married, bought a house,
got divorced,
started, or I don't know if you want to say started but at least a part of 3 bands.
I'm currently in 3 bands in the
Demonize, Natural End, and Suburban Scum.
Currently in the midst of starting another one, and then might have gotten a Raleigh favorite to start back up. So I can't talk about that, but I might have gotten an old awesome band to start back up because I've been begging them to. Oh, there he goes.
There it is. We called it.
About get out.
2.5 minutes in, you called it.
Dude, I work from home and he just like is constantly walking across my keyboard, so I knew it was coming.
So I mean, like, I don't necessarily want to like get into like super specifics, but I mean, like, I don't recall, other than just my time in Taz was done, it was great, I'm done. And then it almost seemed like you were gonna focus on working with your dad with the guitar company, but like that you weren't interested in music at all, like at that point, like didn't want anything to do with it. So obviously we'll talk about the bands and all that kind of stuff going up, but like I guess, you know, as someone who kind of talks quite a bit, and I think even we've talked about it in previous chats, but just kind of the why, like, you know, what motivates you to do something. I don't really know if I've ever really gone the other route of maybe like where you lose passion and what happens there to make you maybe want to kind of end something.
Yeah. I mean, leaving the Acacia Strain was definitely one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. And it really just came down to like, it just wasn't fitting in my life at the moment. Like, and I know that that's like a really cliche answer, but just like my mental health had taken such a dive, like towards honestly, the back end of the pandemic and then into when we got back to touring, my mental health was just at like the absolute worst. And anytime that I was like the second we left for that tour, I was like an anxious ball of negativity. I was miserable to be around on that tour. It just was like, I wasn't happy with anything. So it was kind of like this isn't making me happy right now. And we just came back from not touring for over a year. We're playing a record that I primarily wrote and my like favorite record I don't want to say as a child, but as a teen. If this can't make me excited, then how is touring for me anymore? So that was like that was the basis of it. I mean, there was a lot of factors. I don't want to speak like there's no like turmoil within the band, but at that time I think maybe we weren't our like the band's communication wasn't the best, so we were all kind of like button heads a lot. Still friends with all of them, but at that point it was just like I need something to change like internally, and this is the first thing I could think of because it's the thing that's like the most disruptive in my life. Like I would notice that I'd be home from a tour for 3-4 months, finally get in a groove where like, all right, my head's coming back to me, kind of getting a little bit more stable, and then by the time I'm like finally getting back into a routine, it's all right, leave and go on tour again, and then it just starts that cycle again of like my head just not being in the right place. So that was like the main reason. It was just kind of like that tour should have been my favorite thing I've ever done. And looking back, it is one of my favorite things I've ever done musically. I wish I could have in the moment appreciated it a bit more. But that was really it. Like I just needed something to give, kind of.
Well, I feel like at that point, and this is kind of why I wanted to almost deconstruct it, because I think so often, we're able to pinpoint things, and I know this is more of like a therapy thing where it's like a lot of times to be able to move forward, at least in my experiences of going to therapy, kind of really got to start going backwards and then kind of
Oh
figuring
yeah.
out what were the triggers of why did I feel this way. And a lot of times the things that we're going through in the moment that, somebody may hear what you just said and what you went through and go, well, don't you feel like that was a rash decision? Don't you think you should have done X, Y, or Z?
Mhm.
But sometimes I feel like it's easy to say that retroactively. It's easy to say that looking back versus
Yeah.
where you are now.
And I
But to
also knew
me,
that it wasn't a rash decision because I was thinking about there was a point where the after the burial tour, I didn't tell anybody, but that was going to be my last tour.
mm,
Um, and I didn't do it because I wasn't ready. So just like the rash decision or rash, whatever
rash.
decision,
Yeah.
uh, like just for that side of the coin,
Mm.
that's where I would nip that in the butt.
Well, it's a thing to me, and this is why I was trying to like figure out when the last time I saw you and all that. Cause I mean, the pandemic kind of makes things really hard to remember an actual timeline because that's just about 2 years we all lost that we don't think about when we think about time. Like it just is
Isn't
like, oh yeah,
fucked up?
that
That was 5 years ago too.
I know. I was actually thinking about that the other day. That I
Fucked
was like,
up.
how long ago was that? And then I was just like, I don't even remember when it was, but it was such a huge
Yeah.
thing, which I think speaks more volumes to sometimes you need to give yourself distance from something that you think is a very monumental thing because when you step away from it a few years later, like, oh, well, either it got way worse and
Mhm.
that's why I don't remember these things. But I kind of had wondered because at the time, obviously, you were doing a lot of the writing mix or not mixing and mastering, but maybe you were, but the writing recording process of your last two, it comes in waves and slow decay
Mhm.
or decay, sorry. Um, but it was a thing where then once you're done with all of that, then I think you were all switching to quad cortexes and being on that, and that was like your thing. So it just
Mhm.
seemed like to me you kind of felt I would feel like you felt so overloaded that it's like I didn't have a break from any fucking thing where maybe some of the other guys did.
Mhm.
And, where they have that time to be refreshed and get away from the thing, you're just immersed in it the whole fucking time. And the thing that made me think of that was the other podcast I was doing a little while ago when the other two dudes weren't involved in it was the between seasons. I was working on the season. I was working on all the socials. I was doing everything. So when we actually started up what would become season 2, I'd only not been doing the thing from the start all the way through for maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was just like, they're like, it's really cool to be back. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean back? I've been doing all of this. So it kind of gave me a little bit of a perspective when I was thinking about that a while ago.
Mm.
I was like, I wonder if this is what Tom did. Because like at that point, I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this other fucking podcast. I think I need another 3, 4, 5 months off so I
Yeah.
can get a reprieve from it. And I was just thinking about all the things and all the different hats you were probably wearing and feeling the stresses of each one individually, but then compounded onto all of it with a tour and everything coming and like due dates and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I definitely burnt myself out, and I mean, I have such a tendency to overload myself with work. Like I do better like just as a person when I'm busy. I I fucking squander free time, like if I have it. But that's like something that I've been trying to even recognize now with my bands is like, and I'm not learning from it because I just recorded and mixed both bands within the last couple months and wrote a bunch of those songs for both different bands and whatever. But yeah, that was like a big thing with, I think, that final tour for me where I truly hit burnout on the road. Like, because even though there was the pandemic that we weren't touring, like you said, I was still working on a lot of stuff. Like I was writing new shit. Um, and two, I was like, took a long time to get the show made for It Comes in Waves, like figuring out who's playing what's going to be backtracked. For like a year before we actually did the tour, we thought we were going to have a third guitar player with us for that tour,
Mm.
like to do all the extra layers. So I had arranged like a big session for that. I programmed all the Kemper stuff, like all the MIDI changes. I went so overboard with it where I don't even know if it helped or hurt. But yeah, like I didn't have a break, even though it was a break from touring. I didn't have a break from thinking about all the stuff. So yeah, I think when the tour came, because it was so much lead up with all that working on it, and then just like the stress of making sure everything works. Like I was our playback tech, you know. If something went down in the middle of the show, it was me who had to figure it out, and there was a lot of issues with the technology, just because it was all brand new to us. But yeah, I burnt myself the fuck out. And I think that was a big part of it too. Cause even, and then on top of things during the pandemic, since we weren't touring, I was working like 3 jobs just to try to like live the life I wanted to. So it was just like burn myself out in a quote unquote professional setting and then burn myself out in my music setting. And my mental health. It just was like, yeah, this is not working right now. I was a terror to be around. Like after I quit the band, Devin and I didn't speak for like 6 months because he and I had such a bad falling out. But we've repaired it, and honestly, thanks to him for being the bigger person with a lot of stuff. And um, he's like one of my best friends still. I talk to him literally every day. Talk to all the dudes. But yeah, it was just like I was just in such a shitty place mentally that I was taking it out on others and burning myself out.
Dude, I get there would have probably been a point I wouldn't have understood the taking it out on other people, but leading up to my foot surgery, which I was not stoked on, I was just not good. And then I kind of learned through some other things that essentially part of it was like from sort of, I don't want to call it trauma, but the long and short of it, I was at a family gathering and one of my aunts was like, "Oh, you know why you're not great with like doctor stuff is because your parents wouldn't tell you you were going to a doctor's. Like some days you just go to a doctor's and you're having surgery, and then sometimes you were going for a checkup."
What the
And
fuck?
then as soon as she said that, I was like transported back to being like 6 or 7 and walking into a hospital and having surgery that I was not aware I was having.
Yeah.
And as soon as it was like fucking core memory, like I said, just taken back. And I was like, oh, fuck. And it made so much more sense, but it didn't alleviate like my behavior of just kind of being shitty because I wasn't dealing well with this thing.
Yeah.
And it's a thing, I've kind of talked about it more now, but I think there's a problem. I don't want to necessarily just say as guys we have this insecurity of like feeling lesser than or not whatever, but I do think that there's a little bit of this societal pressure of what we're supposed to be for our partners, especially in a marriage or in a long-term relationship, and having to pull your weight. And
Mhm.
for me it was also hard to have my wife have to do everything.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing I could kinda do by myself was go to the bathroom, and,
Yeah.
like, I could get into the shower, and I could shower myself, but I needed help getting onto that, the shower seat and all this other stuff, and it was just like, when you can't put any weight on your foot and essentially you're just sitting or sleeping, like, laying or sitting all fucking day when you're not used to doing any like, that's not what your life is, it's
Mhm.
hard not to be depressed, and I think it was even worse when it would be, like here, like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, okay, no one I know is awake.
Yeah.
And people out west are kind of in their prime. Like if they're out like going people, like that's their prime bar time. So it's like they're not going to be available. And it's like I think that's when it was I was the saddest and most upset because I'm like, I have fucking nothing
Yeah,
and
you
no
feel useless.
yeah. And it's it's a thing where, you know, now I'm on the other side of it and I can at least talk about it and be like, oh, this was really fucking hard. And like at times I wondered, like, should I just get a divorce and make my wife not have to deal with this
Yeah.
and things like that? And it's like I can only imagine those same thoughts, but on a scale of like, would it just be better for this band or for anyone involved with me to just not have me be around so they don't have to deal with my shittiness and all these things? And it's hard to pull yourself out of that. And I think it's even harder to understand that you're actually feeling that way and how to actually start working on that and working your way out.
Yeah. I wish I had a really good answer for that because I'm still trying to work on that. um yeah, it's tough, especially like that last tour that I did. My ex's father got in like a bad car accident one day, and she had just opened up like a new hair salon that had an employee for like she'd finally expanded, and it was all within like a week, and I was just like, I'm on fucking tour. What the like I'm letting someone down no matter what I do. Um like whether I leave to go home and help or stay, like someone's getting let down. I mean, I guess I ended up letting down my ex, which doesn't matter anyway. um that that's besides the point. But yeah, it's tough to repeatedly feel like you just aren't helpful in a lot of ways. And I didn't a lot of people asked if like just the struggles at home with like my wife or my ex-wife running a business and like her father's health stuff. Wait, where am I going? Can we cut part of this out? Because I'm just
Sure.
like I'm let's go back uh before I talked about my ex.
Okay. So you're cutting so when I cut this,
Yeah.
you're basically stemming off from what I just said.
You can cut it and keep in where I was like, doesn't matter how that turned out because I let her down. And then
Fair
after
enough.
that, just cut.
Got
Um, yes. So let's go from there. Sorry, I was
Okay.
just like rambling in a way that I lost where I was going.
That's fine.
uh, what was the last thing you said?
Basically just more or less just kind of for me saying that like it's tough to not feel like when you're in all of that not to feel useless, but also mentally realizing that that's what you're doing to yourself, like that you're in this thing and
Mhm.
how do you start getting out of it?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, I
when you
don't
said you didn't have an answer currently for that
I'm
either.
I'm trying to like think of something insightful with that, but I mean, I still struggle with it, you know? It's just like a you somehow get through it.
Well, I think that's like an honest answer though. I think sometimes like and that's why I love kind of having these more real like this is spontaneous. Like we're not there's not a preset thing of
Mhm.
questions or anything. We just kind of naturally got here. But I think that's the other thing sometimes is like sometimes I feel like we're expected to have an answer.
Mhm.
And I think the answer is just I don't know yet. I'm still kind of figuring it
Oh,
out. And I
yeah.
think that that should be more than acceptable.
Yeah. My answer right now for everything has just been I'm just gonna wake up. Like, if I can make myself just start another day, then I'm winning, you know? Um, and like
Excuse me.
somewhere along the road, things just have a way of working themselves out, you know? It's like I that's the only way that I could think of it before it's like a I don't know, just like this introspective uh spiral that'll occur where I'm like, what's real existence, you know? But I think that's the only like I've been telling that to people like if they're want like I talk a lot about mental health with people and just like friends and that's like the only real sentiment I've had lately is just like you just gotta keep doing it for some reason. You don't really know why, but you just gotta keep doing it and it'll hopefully eventually work. And if not, sorry, bud. I'm right there with you, you know?
Yeah, I was talking with I don't. I'll say it, and I don't think actually it doesn't really matter. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and he was kind of dealing with some things with someone who was kind of being someone who was a pretty big foundational part of his life growing up. That was just causing sort of unnecessary stress and drama. And they had sent me out like I have a preloaded response next time this person does this thing that they just consistently do.
Hmm.
And then I was reading it and I was like, ultimately, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to like post this or send it to them, and then they're just going to not be your friend, or they're going to double down on the shittiness of kind of how they've shown you to be.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the goal the end result will still be the same, that you've spoken your piece, there's been a boundary now set. And I
Hmm.
go, but I think the hard part for a lot of us, or I should say for me and a lot of people like myself, is we don't it's hard to put up boundaries, especially when it comes to friends and family, because it
Yeah.
it doesn't because they know how to manipulate us to a degree.
Hmm.
And it feels like, again, kind of going back to the letting down people, like it feels like you're letting someone down by setting a boundary, because and this is what I said to this person. I was like, because ultimately they're showing you that they don't care about your boundaries. They don't care about the things that
Hmm.
you tell them make you feel a certain way. They just do it anyway. So why are we afraid of the repercussions of that for that person when they
Yeah.
clearly don't show the same respect back to you?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was just kind of one of those things where I was
Hard.
like, why the fuck can I say that to someone, but I don't always follow my own advice and can't always follow it?
Dude, it's so much easier to give advice to someone else than to ever fucking follow it. Like, yeah, I mean, it's crazy the way that like when you take a step back, you could always see it, but in the moment. And I guess that's like, I mean, that's been my biggest beef so far with the years of therapy that I've had, where I'm like, why is it still not working in the moment? But
Do you
good.
feel that it really doesn't, or because like a
No,
big
there's
experience?
small steps. I
Are they
see
okay?
I see the small changes.
Mm.
I guess I'm being kind of dramatic, but more so that I wish the changes in myself would happen grander and quicker.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. Boundary setting is really fucking hard because it, it's kind of like three people involved in my head. There's the person that you're dealing with, like pretend you and I are in like a conflict or just somebody has to set up a boundary. It's like me, you, and then my own way of speaking the boundary. Because there's a
Mm.
lot of times where I'll recognize like, okay, yeah, there's a boundary that needs to be hit, but then I have to talk my internal monologue through like, okay, is this valid? Like, you usually feel pretty wrong about this. Why do you feel that way? And then I just end up spiraling.
Mm.
But that's like, I don't know. That's why I think boundary setting is the hardest for me, at least. Like, there's that, it's almost like a third person you have to battle in my head. If that
Yeah,
makes any amount of sense. I don't know if that
no,
does.
no, it does. And I think the thing for me that I've kind of learned, and and that's kind of why I like doing and talking about real things, because I think it's just important to hear someone else's perspective on something other than your own, and
Hmm.
maybe like the way I talk about therapy. Like a big thing for me when I went through it was like my therapist would give me homework essentially,
Hmm.
and a lot of times I didn't need to do the homework. I could just like one of the things, because I always overthought so many problems that never fucking happened or didn't exist.
Yeah.
And this one worksheet was just like a giant cog. And then it was like, write whatever the big problem is. Then there's like all these other little cogs. And it's like, fill these out. And I didn't have to, because as soon as I looked at it, I was like, oh, if I don't give it other shit, it doesn't all just go crazy. Like I just need to focus on the one thing. And
Yeah.
there's not a million parts moving to that. I can just focus on that one thing. I get it. Like I didn't need to do the exercise. I understood it.
Hmm.
But the flip side of that is going through something like BetterHelp, where it's all online and you can email or like DM and all that kind of stuff with your therapist. Mine always was like, oh, I'm available if you need to talk about something or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I kind of just need to like be in it like for a week until the
Hmm.
next appointment. I just need to see how does the things that we've discussed manifest into my life naturally,
Yeah.
instead of me thinking about it all the time and then being like, well, did I manifest this because I've just been thinking about it? Or
Yeah.
and a big one for me, like it seemed like inevitably all week, like at some point during the week, the thing we were discussing happened. And then it was like, and there was a moment where it was like the test. And it was like, I remember like my car broke down on a Friday in the middle of downtown, like at lunchtime. And I'm
Oh
in the one turn lane that's going also down a one-way road. So I was like, oh my fucking God.
God. The worst.
And oh, it was the worst. And like I was dropping off a shipped order because that's what I was doing. And my mind was just like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with my car? Oh fuck, I don't have money to fix this. What could it be?" And I just started over analyzing shit. And I go, "What can I deal with right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to call a cop or someone to like block the people behind me so I don't get hit. Okay, now what? From there, probably need to call a tow truck. Okay, now what? I call Bridget, I guess, to come pick me up or let her know. Then
Mhm.
I'll deal with everything when I get information from there. But those are the three things I can do about the situation I'm in right
Yeah.
now." And then that was like the moment, like sitting in my car, I was like, oh fuck. That was literally what we just that was the lesson and the things we were I was supposed to work on this week,
Yeah.
and it happened. And so to me, is that a grandiose thing of like the revelation of the work working? Kind of, but at the same time, I
Pretty
could see it being
awesome.
like that's a pretty insignificant thing overall. But to me, it's interesting just to kind of hear how people and what people expect out of therapy, because I maybe my instances of those things happening, like that's not what happens for everybody else. But at least if you're able to kind of see things happening and it's a small progression, it's still a progression. And I think that's still good.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely a big pro therapy guy. I think sometimes I struggle because I overanalyze things that I like I'll view it from every other viewpoint, and then even when I'm on like with my therapist, I'll be like saying all the different viewpoints. She's like, what are all these different viewpoints matter? What do you feel?" I'm like, "But it doesn't matter what I feel." Like all this shit. But yeah, so I think therapy is awesome to at the very least make yourself think about things, if that makes sense. Like whether you are comfortable with like opening up so much in a session, more so like I'm sorry, let me back that up. I feel like there's more benefit to just going and doing it and having that maintenance, whether you feel like you're getting any benefit from it or not, than to just blow it off completely.
Right. 100%.
Like, like, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's the way that I've been thinking of it because there's definitely been like chunks of time where I feel like it's doing fucking nothing for me, and then there's other chunks of time where I'm like, this is the fucking greatest. I can see all the progress, and so it's just like keeping up with it, I guess, whether it sucks or doesn't, which then you could break down as that's the case for everything in the world. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my view or my feelings lately on therapy.
I have a really weird thought that just occurred to me.
Hit me.
So you're kind of saying like, your thing is sort of a little bit of mine, but what my big thing was is just overthinking things, but you more from the perspective of other people, which I think it's a good thing to have, and I would say is probably why you're probably more of an empathic person, because you tend to think of
A lot of
others
empathy.
first before you. But my question would be, do you this is such a weird thing. Do you feel like because of your roles that you've acquired in your musical career of like writing, like fleshed out, like I'm not just responsible for my guitar part. I'm writing a rhythm and a lead and then a backing, and then I'm adding, filling everything in, thinking of all the components to make music, but and then also thinking about it from a producer standpoint where it's,
Mhm.
how do we do this and all these things, that you're thinking of so many different outcomes and possibilities within a songwriting kind of capability, that maybe it stems sort of from that at all.
Yeah, I definitely have noticed there be like parallels between my like when I'm in like a manic episode, like as
Mm.
far as like my mental health goes, and like things are looking like they're going great, but really it's like we're 2 seconds away from a meltdown. It's a lot of the same internal feelings that I get when I'm writing music because my
Mm.
brain is like in an excited way, but also in like a really critical way, just like bouncing everywhere. Like that's always been one of my favorite things about my creative self is like, I think because I can, I, I hate saying that I'm really empathetic because it sounds so like cocky, but I've had like my therapist be like, you have a lot more empathy than a lot of people, so this is why you feel this way. So I'm gonna go with the professionals term. I think because of that, I can think of a lot of different viewpoints, like whether it's music, thinking of like, well, what's this subsect of people going to think about this riff? What's this subsect going to think? Is this going to get the feeling across to everybody the way that I want it to? Like, what note has to get hit here to get this feeling? Is also kind of how I think of like social interactions, where like
Mm.
I'm just like, well, I'm dealing with something uncomfortable right now. Who's got what role? What's their come from? Like, where might they be thinking of this from? Like, what's their experience? What's my experience? Who is like, why are we thinking this way? You know. So I think there is a big parallel between like just not even necessarily mental health, but just like the way that I show up in not music world and music world, because I keep them pretty separate in my life. Like in terms of just like I keep them
It's
separate
interesting.
in my
It's
life.
interesting. That's one of your few boundaries you are able to establish and not seem to have a problem with.
Well, let me rephrase that. I don't think
Fair
I don't
enough.
I don't think I separate it, but I think it's just that music has been there for so long that
Hmm.
I'm more comfortable dealing with things in music than I am. Like I've played music longer than I've worked on my mental health, you know? So like yeah, I've had my brain the whole time, but it wasn't always fucking working. So yeah, I don't know. Does that answer what I'm trying to say? I
I
feel
think
like I
so.
keep getting like real sidetracked with my answers, but trying to cover a lot of ground.
No, and you know, maybe part of that's like my fault for asking a very broad ass question when
Oh, I love
it's
it. I love it. I love real talk. I fucking hate the same old shit.
yeah, no, and that's you know I mean we'll kind of get to this way at the end, but I mean that's the other reason I wanted to have you on to kind of do this. Like everyone I'm having on, like essentially, yes, it's for the most part everyone that I've had on a few times and I've built that rapport with, but the flip side is these are the conversations I would have with you or whomever, like because these are the conversations we actually have.
Yeah.
And I think that that's more important than anything at this point in time. It's just like we're so disconnected from everybody. We're so disconnected from ourselves, even because we feel like we have to put on either for, you know, the people looking in at our lives through social media lenses and stuff like that, or, you know, I mean, that's like I've kind of been a lot more vocal about like, yeah, my marriage was not great probably 5, 6, 7 months ago.
Hmm.
And it was me, my own shit. I just didn't know how to, I just didn't realize that at the time. And sadly, like my thought was just, well, I guess I'll just quit this. Like I'll throw in 11 or 14 years of a relationship because I'm hitting a really, really rough patch right now. When
Hmm.
instead, maybe it should be more of a thing of like, okay, why is this happening? What is happening? And I
Yeah.
need to tell my person this, and I need to tell the other people around me, like, sorry, I'm being a dickbag, but
Hmm.
I have apparently undiagnosed trauma from being a child that I just didn't know about, and now I'm figuring it all out and trying to deal with it. But I think that again, that's easier said than done at times. But I think that that's real to me. That's real fucking life.
I think one of the best things that you just said right there too is like that you reached out to people to say that you're sorry for it. Like most of the time, like 9 times out of 10, if they're your friends that you're apologizing to, they're gonna be like, "Don't fucking worry about it." But it doesn't matter. Like I am someone who like people always tell me to stop apologizing, and I'm just like, I'd rather it be known that I am actually like not even something big, but like if I fucking mess up somebody's Chipotle order, like when I'm bringing it back to my friend, like I'm gonna like actually say sorry. Like think about why this affects their day and actually apologize for it. You know, like I think people are so quick to just be like, "Oh yeah, sorry," and not mean it. But like there is an actual correct way to apologize to people, whether
No,
people
100%.
realize it or not.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, I think that's just getting older and maybe being on the other side of like the whole. you know, how would you want to be treated in this situation? And I think we've all had someone that you clearly know is going through something else, and I don't want to say lashing out, but they're not, how they're portraying and what they're saying isn't necessarily meant at you. It's kind of just a deflecting of like, I'm not handling my own shit right now. So it's
Mhm.
easier just to be mean and lash out to all of you than to deal with my own shit and
Oh yeah.
deal with it. So adversely, when you do get all your shit in check, it's like, all right, kind of need to go like, I mean, it's like, for as much as I'm not a proponent of like AA and a lot of those kind of programs, I do think there's parts of it that I agree with, which, the first part is like, once you've accepted, that you're an addict and all these kind of things, you got to go in atone, basically the atoning
Mhm.
for, being whoever you were that you don't want to be anymore. And I do think that that's a huge thing that a lot of us don't do anymore, period. And like you said, if you do, it's just like that half of, yeah, I'm sorry. And it's like, are you? Don't say it
Yeah.
just for the sake of saying it to me. Like, fuck you. I don't need that.
Yeah.
That's even worse.
I get really fucking like that's one of my like uh, biggest fucking pet peeves is like a shitty apology or no apology. Like that's like I'm just like I will fucking remember that. Like that speaks to your character to me when people apologize and when they don't.
So out of curiosity, were you writing at all, like in the downtime? Because I know, like, you in your press release thing of leaving the band, it was to really focus on working with your dad and the guitar company and kind of doing more to help get that going a lot bigger. Were
Mhm.
you really writing at all, or did you really just take like, I'm kind of done on all that for now?
No, I was still writing and I I think because my mental health had gone so far down and I needed to take like 2 years to even become like a functioning human again. I think that's why maybe it seemed like I had stopped all music for a bit just because I wasn't like posting about it a lot, but I I've been writing the whole time. Like I've got probably 4 half finished records that are just sitting on my computer that I'll probably never finish. And yeah, so like the goal was always to get music back to be the focal point. But just be able to survive first, honestly, like be able to wake up and go to bed the next day and wake up again was the main priority before getting back to writing music.
I think I
Essentially
was gonna.
saying don't kill myself and then keep writing music.
Have you listened back to any of that music at all?
uh yeah, just I think music is the one. I want to say that there's some great profound things in there. Um and there's definitely some really cool shit, but I didn't like rediscover myself or anything while I was writing it. It was a lot of just
Mm,
like this is what I wanted. Like what I wrote was basically like if I was still in the Acacia Strain, but we only did It Comes in Waves.
mm.
So I was writing a lot of stuff like that. Which like I don't know, maybe I do need to go back and listen to it. Maybe I'm missing something because I haven't listened to it in a minute. So maybe there is some cool shit that I'm not remembering on there.
Well, the only reason I asked is because, in the sense that, like a lot of artists and stuff like that, especially musicians, when they talk about writing a record, it's kind of a snapshot of where I was or the things that led up to that
Mhm.
time in my life. That I wonder for you, and I mean, correct me if wrong. I don't think you really write out lyrics and like you do that kind of like
Mhm.
vocals and stuff like that.
Yeah, not
So at
really.
that
I write
point,
lyrics a bit, but not. I always take the back seat on that just because I know someone's better than me.
so and that leads me to my question, which would have been, when listening to that, I assume it would probably take you right back to where you were when you wrote all those things.
Mhm.
But I almost wonder, in light of us kind of saying, like, therapy, you feel like is little small pieces and then maybe like a little bit of a bigger breakthrough. When you listen back to those songs now, years later,
Mhm.
are you able to kind of, this is maybe a really stupid question, but it's like when you listen to it, do you kind of hear like how far you've progressed, not as a musician, but
Mhm.
where you were when you wrote that?
Hmm. I think I could definitely see where now that you're saying it, now I'm realizing it's been a little bit longer than I thought previously since going back and listening to it. I think there's definitely a bit of like that snapshot for sure. Like a lot of the music I was writing then was like super chaotic and everything. But I think more than anything, when I go and listen back to music I wrote during like really weird or confusing times, it's usually that grounds me again.
Mm,
Um, like music's really the only thing that feels normal to me. Like I I feel weird in my body until I'm sitting down and pick up a guitar. Even if I'm not playing it, I just feel more natural with one in my hands. So like during the times of the worst like mental health breaks, the only moments of clarity were sitting down and sitting in front of my laptop, programming drums, writing riffs. Like that was the only time that my brain would clear itself. So
mm.
it's kind of interesting, the idea of like going back and listening to it and seeing if it takes me back to that, or if it feels like the normal trajectory that I was going on. So it's definitely now I'm gonna go back and listen to it because I you've got me thinking about it a lot.
Well, it's one of those things. In talking with like Andrew from Ghost Inside, he's got his side project, solo
Mhm.
project, One Decade, and the first EP was essentially him in the hospital post accident, but in sonic form, essentially.
Mhm.
And I know for me, like, and this is something we had kind of talked about in our chat and have since then. But it's like I spent a lot of time in hospitals and stuff with my cleft lip and palate and a lot of other things growing up. And I told him, I was like, dude, it's weird. Like certain songs actually evoke smells of hospital rooms to me. Like it
Oh yeah.
it brought me back to those things.
Mhm.
And him and I kind of were talking about that. That it's like it's weird that like if that's not something you come from or know, you're probably not going to get the same reactions that we did listening to these things, which trigger other things we've gone through.
Mhm.
And so when I hear you, talking about when I think about what were you writing, what does it sound like? That maybe it's the words you couldn't articulate to
Mhm.
yourself to other people, but here is a sonic representation of what you were feeling. Adversely, I'd almost think it'd be kind of interesting to almost make it like a compendium piece down the road where it's like you take something where you're on the other side of things and then you kind of marry it together and it's kind of like the halves of a brain or like
Yeah.
trauma and being recovered or whatever analogy you kind of want to throw on these things.
Mhm.
But I just think it would be really interesting to kind of look at it, even if it never gets released, but just to kind of for yourself be like, oh man, like, because like you said, it seems like when you talk about writing and always have that, it's like that's kind of the thing that just everything else goes away for you. It's when you
Yeah.
kind of get to really be who and what you want to be.
Mhm.
And then once it's kind of getting at it, that's where all the stresses come back in of, okay, like who's doing what here and what is
Yeah.
this like, but in the actual like the construct of the inspirational part of the writing,
Mhm.
that's where you're the most freest and aren't hindered by anything.
Yeah. That's definitely like my happy place is creating a song. Like I love performing, I love jamming with friends, but like I like going to the fucking movies with my friends. Like there's other shit that I like, but there's nothing that makes me like truly clear out all the noise, like putting on my headphones, picking up a guitar and having my computer in front of me. Like even thinking about like Slow Decay when we were writing it, at one point we were at Griffin's studio that had like a little lounge room, an actual like control room, and then an isolation room for drums. Like we had 3 different writing rigs, and there was like the first 2 days that we were there, I just like didn't talk to anybody, put my headphones on, and just sat with my computer, and I turned out like 6 songs within 2 days, something like that. So yeah, it's like just the one spot in life that everything blocks out for me. And it's like fucking thank God, because that's saved my life for sure. Just like being able to pick up a guitar, and that's like one of the other things that I think, kind of getting back to the therapy thing, is like it's so hard to try to find little things every day, and that's what the big message always is with therapy. Like find a little appreciation in little things, and that it'll trickle down into all this shit. Well, it's really fucking hard to find that appreciation a lot of days, especially now in 2025. But one of the biggest things that I've noticed like centers me throughout the day is, even if it's for 45 seconds picking up a guitar, playing a couple riffs, putting it down, and I'm just like, okay, I had something broke up my brain kind of thing.
I think there's a couple of things that I've heard in the last like week or so that I've been kind of tripping out about. So I'll throw a couple at you because this is what I like doing on this thing now too, is just kind of like working through my own shit of like, I had found this random cool idea and this thought. What does someone else think? So as someone who doesn't want kids and stuff like that, and I think when I went to therapy, that was another thing we discussed with at least I'll say my dad finding religion, and I think kind of using it as a band-aid to kind of fix a lot of things that he hasn't dealt with himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of them is like, well, I don't want kids, so his name doesn't live on with whatever child I have, essentially. And, you know, an afterlife gives him that. But I was listening to this podcast the other day, and the two people, and I wish I remember who it was, so I could at least be like, hey, go listen to this episode. But the two guests were basically talking about legacy, and they were like, well, you know, do you think that you're creating all this music and all this stuff to kind of be the legacy that you leave behind so you're remembered? And then I thought about it for a second, and I was like, oh, fuck, are we all just doing things in general to leave some sort of a legacy behind, whatever, however small or whatever it is? Like, I don't want kids. I've said that. And actually to the point where like not having kids actually was a huge release for me, where I was like, oh my God, I don't have any of these pressures or burdens to live for another thing or people beyond me.
Once I realized I didn't want kids, it was so much easier.
100%. And the thing is, though, is I was like, when I heard that, I was like, fuck, is that why I do this podcast? Is to have some sort of a legacy, even though that's not how I feel like it and why I'm doing it. But is there a subconscious thing that we all want our legacies to endure when we're gone? Or can we truly do something so selfish that we are selfless that we actually don't care about those things? Or is that just inherently in us at all times?
I think there's a little bit of both. Like, I think it's both as far as like being a creator. I can't necessarily say that for like someone who goes and wants to be a doctor or like a mechanical engineer, but I think as a creator, there's like, you kind of have two modes where you're doing it. Like, at least for me, I can like very, very much separate, like, this is what I'm creating right now is purely for me. This is either something no one's ever going to even hear or something that I expect people to hate. And then there's another set of how I'm doing things where I'm like, okay, I got to be a bit more mindful. Maybe this will be like a little bit more commercially successful kind of thing. Like take like the Acacia Strain. It's like, you have to still keep your audience in mind in some way, you know, like if that was the case, I'd put a fucking blues record out after a death metal record. Like, you still have an audience that you have to think about. So as far as like creating in that scope, it's like, yeah, I was doing what I still really like, but I also have to be mindful of who this is for, you know? So I think that's kind of where I feel like maybe you can separate the legacy from the selfish, or the, I guess you would say selfish and selfless creation, where it's like you kind of tap into two different parts of your brain a little bit, because there's definitely some shit that I like create that I'm like, I borderline want people to go, what is this? Because it's so me, you know? Like, there's this band called Slow Hole that I just found. They're a band that like spoke to me in both like a musical way and just like a, fuck, they committed to doing exactly what they wanted to do. Like, this is the coolest shit ever. And it's just chaos. Like, I don't even know if it's songs. I think it might just be noise. But it's so fucking sick. And they stole the show the other day when I saw them. And that's kind of got me thinking about just the, like, where's the limit? Like, where's the limit of what we're doing for legacy versus what we're doing for ourselves? And how far can you lean into either or, you know? And I think that's what I think that's more so maybe what we're striving for, of how can we be successful doing it our way? less than like legacy. That's what I would categorize what I'm trying to do in. Like, how can I become successful saying like, fuck you, I think that sucks, I'm going to do it differently, and this is successful. If that does that make sense?
It does, and it's funny. You're talking about what was the band's name again?
Slow Hole,
Slow
terrible
Hole.
band
Okay.
name.
I
Amazing
mean,
band.
any band name kind of is terrible if you really say it enough times after a while.
I just want to know
Um,
what they got, what Slow Hole, where, what, I don't know. Maybe I'm a fucking pervert, but I'm just like, that sounds gross.
um, but it's funny because like going back to like when I was kind of at my lowest, like a friend of mine had shown me this band LLNN
Mhm.
and had shown me their album from a couple of years ago called Unmaker. And ironically, like I remember when checking out, I told him, I was like, yo, this feels like Event Horizon and like Aliens, like shit like that, like space sci-fi shit, but just
Mhm.
like desolation, dark, hopelessness. Like it feels like that's the sound, like that's what, because there's no, I mean, there's vocals, but like it just the first thing I latched onto was just the vibe and the atmosphere they set on this record. And then coincidentally, the split EP they just put out, it's inspired by Event Horizon. So it's like I wasn't entirely off with the frame of
Yeah.
references, but it's a thing where like that record really kind of taught me sometimes it's okay, like to, I guess, kind of wallow and feel that shittiness of just like, and just let it, like, feel it and
Yeah.
then start moving through it. But it's interesting to kind of almost be like the facilitator of that epiphany for someone to like know that like something like It Comes in Waves or Slow Decay or some of the other stuff maybe you're working on, and even going back to maybe the stuff you were writing after leaving the band and all that, but like that you're creating sort of a sonic version of allowing someone to sonic therapy, go through that and realize and have those epiphanies. um kind of thought of that myself, but
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but
I had somebody, and I think this is kind of in line with what we're talking about as far as like, I mean, music, like just making you feel a certain way and how it connects to you. Like, you used It Comes in Waves as an example of like being the kind of the catalyst for something, the way that Slow Hole just inspired me the other day. I had somebody at a show come up to me one day saying that fuck, this is hard for me to even repeat, just saying that their daughter had passed away like a
mm,
couple days before It Comes in Waves came out, and that record was the only thing that kept him here. And that was like, that was one of the few moments where I was like, oh, this is more important than me. Like, just hearing somebody actually, like, I don't know, it, you always hear people say things like, "Oh, your music saved my life." Like, it's a meme, like they're with the person with the sign, you know?
yeah.
But like hearing somebody actually come up to me and tell me that, I was just like, holy fucking shit. Like, this is actually doing something for other people. And I think it's cool because, if like, I mean, obviously fucking happy to hear that somebody dug themselves out of the biggest tragedy that you can ever imagine. Obviously that's awesome, but just like going back to like Slow Hole and shit, like things just touch you and make you think differently. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting very far off topic with that answer, but like,
No, because actually, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think actually finish your thing, and then I'll kind of say why I don't think you're going off topic.
no, you go. I was just rambling, so you're good.
Okay, so I'm gonna take you and those potentially listening down the road back. Do you remember? Do you remember what you said you did when you had joined the band and how you started friend requesting a bunch of people and you thought that's how you had to promote the tour, was like, hey, we're about to, and
Yeah.
like this expectation of what you thought you needed to be for somebody in that
Mhm.
band because of you being a fan of the band and the legacy the band had already carved out for itself. But there was something in that conversation where you were saying how excited you were to start writing with the band
Mhm.
because you wanted to put your stamp on this era with you in it, not realizing how long it would or wouldn't last, but that there was that excitement to add to this thing and make the band feel as important as it has always been for you.
Yeah.
Here we are now. You did that.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, honestly, this conversation is making me appreciate my time a lot more in the band. sometimes it's hard to look back on fondly, not because it wasn't fond memories, but because because I thought that, I don't want to say that. I have amazing memories. Sometimes it's hard to look back on just because I miss it sometimes, like I don't necessarily miss like touring the way that we were, but I miss the people and the memories. So yeah, it's God, I keep going off topic.
You,
I'm so sorry. I feel like I
no,
keep like
you
thinking
are
so hard into this that I drag it on.
you you're literally hitting on something that I have been really concentrating on a lot more in the last month or two. So in addition to setting boundaries with people and so forth, the other thing I've kind of had to reconcile a little bit in my own life and in myself is realizing that it's okay that things have a shelf life, for lack of a better term.
Mhm.
Like, not everything needs to last forever. Not everything needs to
Yeah.
be something big. It People, places, things can just have a shelf life, and it's okay. And
Mhm.
I think it's when you kind of, at least for me, kind of going through this and this thought and kind of figuring things out through this idea, it makes me feel a lot better about everything that's happened. Because like there are friendships that have kind of fallen by the wayside, and some of those are just boundaries. Some of those are a lot of things. And
Mhm.
instead of feeling sad that like, oh, I'm not friends with that person anymore, or this thing or whatever, which is my normal default to feel sad because this thing's gone, or feel like it's a failure because,
Mhm.
well, I don't have it in my life. I let it fall. I let it fall behind or whatever. To look back on these things and go, man, that was like that. I really enjoyed this time with this person. Man, I really enjoyed doing this thing or
Mhm.
having this thing or whatever it is. And having like something that really triggered this was, at this point, Frankie, our dog, is getting ready to turn 5. And we got her like 2 or 3 months after we had to put my dog down after I had her for like 12 years.
Mhm.
And something initially in going through that was I couldn't think of my dog, I couldn't think of Allie without crying and feeling sad. Because that's how I felt at the time. That's all I could feel was just the sadness that I don't have this thing anymore.
Yeah.
5 years down the line, I still feel sad at times, and there's things that I'll always be reminded of her. But now instead of feeling sad, I kinda look back and I have a smile on my face when I think about
Yeah.
these things.
You
Like
could picture the smile times instead of just the tragic times.
like what triggered it was we had a friend that had their roommate moving out, and so they brought their dog here with us for the
Mhm.
day to, like, just be out of the thing, and it's a lab, and that's what Allie was. And so we had to throw the ball. She never got tired of the ball. It had been raining, so everything's muddy. And it was just like a whole ordeal. And there's times because that's not Frank's 5 at all. Frank's is like, let's go for a walk. We'll come back. That's it. I don't
Mhm.
really play. I don't really do shit.
Yeah.
And there are times where I'd be like, man, Frank's, I would love to just throw the ball at you instead of having to go walk for like 40 minutes or whatever. And then I had that for like an hour with Daisy, my friend's dog. And I was like, fuck, I don't miss this part of this actually now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it was fun for, like, that that one day for, like, an hour to be reminded of, like, those times, and it's the reality where I'm like, I'm kinda actually glad in my life right now, that's not my life right now. I
Yeah.
have a dog, and I'm kind of this is my life now. And I think it goes back to more of what we've been talking about with therapy stuff, where it's like, you can't always think of and live in the past, you kinda gotta move forward and not look at the past through missed opportunities,
Mhm.
negativity, but kind of look at it for what it was and where you are now, and just kind of looking at the progression and the picture as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely kind of piggybacking, like, between what you said and what I said, like, I think it's also important to realize, like, even just that you can feel both at the same time. Like, you can
Those are
be
both valid
super
feelings.
happy and super sad about something at the same time. Like, I look back on my time with the Acacia Strain as, like, this was fucking amazing. It brought me so many cool things. I got to do so much awesome shit, but I could also still look back on it and be like, I really kinda wish I was less of a dick for the last, like, year in the band, like, there's gonna be moments of that, but it's I try to really think of everything as like a learning experience, and I think you learn a lot from both good and bad, and that you can learn from, especially when they're both happening at once, like you can learn the most from that.
I want to ask this. Don't have to go down this road if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily want to get into any of the reasons like behind the divorce or anything like that, but being on the other side of it, because like I said earlier, when we started,
Mm-hmm.
I was at a point with how bad I was that I was like, maybe divorce is the answer. And a thing I kept coming back to was I have so many friends in my life who are divorced and are either still single and like having a great time in their life because
Mm-hmm.
of what they learned they don't want to be in the relationships that
Yeah.
they've always been in, or adversely, like I said, have found somebody else. And it's like, and this is kind of where I came to this idea lately of just being like, maybe things aren't as just black and white, and you can kind of have someone be, or a thing can be what it needs to be for the time it needed to be in your life.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found, I don't want to say alone time, but how have you found it to be now being by yourself?
Divorce is great. You don't have to be afraid to ask me that.
I don't necessarily, because when I ask questions like this, the whole point isn't to be like for you necessarily. Like, yes, I'm
Mhm.
talking to you, but sometimes when going through these, I want maybe someone else who's listening to this, that if
Mhm.
they've been thinking the same thing, to just be like, oh, this is something I've been thinking and wondering, and I just assume no one ever talks about this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have learned so much about myself, so much about people, the person that I want to show up as.
Mm,
I won't go into any details, but it was not like an easy divorce. Um, I Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. It wasn't an easy, clean split. It was like a pain in the ass. Um, but through all of that bullshit, I learned the exact opposite of the person I want to be, and I
mm,
learned who I want in my corner and like in life, you know? And like it just a lot. I've learned a lot in the last year because it's basically, I think in a week or two it'll be exactly a year since I've been on my own.
mm.
But it's been really good. I've made some really good friends. I've never really like dated either. So like just casually dating people and being like, yeah, that was cool, but we don't got to see each other again. Like that alone, like just kind of what you're saying, like people have their moment or their season or their time in your life, like being able to just recognize like, oh yeah, this person might not be there forever. Like that's a big thing like in dating, but just like in life in general, like I think it's really taught me a lot of like more empathy for people because I'm seeing like how somebody may feel in the other person's shoes. But also just like I have never been in a better place either because of this. Like I feel like I've truly rediscovered like my own I don't want to say my own morals because my ex and I had very similar like morals and values and shit like that, but I just have gotten more in touch with what I feel more passionate about. Like I feel more just open talking about certain things with certain people. I feel like I've connected with music even more over the last year than I ever have. I've been more fucking creative over the last year than I ever have. So like it's definitely not fun to go through. Like I'm not going to say 2024 was both my worst and my best year of my life.
Like you said, they both can be true at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, I had probably more fun 2024 than I've had in over a decade, like just traveling as much as I did and just literally making new friends. Like as an adult, it's really fucking weird to make new friends, and I've been like really enjoying it, you know? So like it's a really scary place to be in to like feel like that's the better option, and it's like really difficult like to be living in a household where you don't feel like it's correct, you know?
Mm.
So like people that might be feeling that way, like it's a thing. It's real. And like if someone's feeling that way, I'm sorry, because that's a terrible place to feel or to be in. But if you make a change, there could be something better on the other side. And that's how I've been feeling. And yeah, that's yeah. There we go.
It's funny because like one of my good friends, like my tattoo artist, he came over the other day because I am awful with fixing shit. Like I just that's like a lot of those things don't make sense to me.
Mhm.
I don't have that brain, if that makes any sense. And so I was trying to fix a toilet that's like one of our toilets, and it was like the water pressure wasn't where it needed to be.
Mhm.
And through watching YouTube videos and Googling and all that stuff, like I was like one of the first things everyone kept saying is like, oh, like I think it's the P trap. It's basically if you're standing over the toilet, like where the hole comes to help flush and create a vacuum of sorts.
Mhm.
I was staring at my toilet. I was like, my toilet doesn't even have that. Like, is this? It's just because it's that old. And then like
Yeah.
I'm thinking like legitimately, this toilet's like 25 years old. So like I called over my friend because at this point, between the house he bought, the house he moved into with his ex-wife, now ex-wife, renovated, and then the house he's bought again and renovating that. Like, I'm like, okay, I know you probably understand a lot more of this shit than me. And, we were discussing, just shit like that. And then he was like, oh, went on a date. And I was like, well, how was that? And he was like, it's weird. Like the girl and I were fine, but I realized like just wasn't really there. Like I was like, this is great, but like I'm good and have a,
Mhm.
good night, good life essentially.
Yeah.
And then, he was kind of making the comment about like how she's like, oh, well, it's, maybe, it doesn't have to be something serious. We can just kind of have fun now. And he's like, yeah, but like you say that now, but I don't want to like have feelings get attached or
Mhm.
whatever. And all these things. And, he's just kind of like, I was saying to him, I was like, do you think this is a byproduct of just like the people don't want to be alone, or that like what is it? Because I feel like now everyone, because like all the things he was saying where he's like trying to be nice and like letting this girl down, she's like looking at it like positive, like, oh, you're so good at communicating, and who
Mhm.
you are and what you want, and these are all really positive things. But I was like, and I know that's probably traits that this person finds attractive and wants.
Mhm.
They're not listening to him being like, but I just don't, there's nothing here for me that I would want to be in this
Yeah.
beyond this. And like how often like are people doing that where they're just someone's being honest, or you both are kind of being honest to a degree, but you just don't want to be alone or don't want to
Mhm.
go through this thing that it's like how many of us stay in relationships we don't want to be just because it's like, well, the options that are out there are not great.
Yeah.
And then, like I've kind of, and this has been talked about on the other podcast I had with him, but talking about dating now, because like I just feel like, dude, I'm fucking 40. Like when I started dating Bridget, like my wife, it's like apps were kind of just becoming a thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now it's like that's all there really is. And it's like, dude, if that was the case, like, do people actually go on dates and talk? Or is it like, and I know this to be true because other people have talked about this, where it's like you get there and then everyone's just like, and the vibe between the screen, because there's security behind the screen. There's
Mhm.
you can be whoever you want to be as you're texting and making up all these things, whether they're lies or not. But
Mhm.
that's just like I often wonder like what kind of a foundation do you lay as people when it's all based on texting and apps and all this kind of stuff versus meeting someone literally out and about.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. Because I know some people who have had a great success like on the dating apps, and I know other people who are like they're fucking useless. And then like I'm on it, but it's like it's more of like a game almost like Candy Crush, like
Get on
swipe.
for 10-15 minutes.
I'll take a shit and I'll swipe around and then I'll put it away and never think of it again. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I feel like I can talk to a brick wall because as long as I'm making myself laugh, I am in the conversation. So I'm pretty easy with it. Like, I don't really ever deal with that awkwardness of like, we met behind a screen. Like I'll sometimes see like that nervousness in someone else, but I'm just like, this is the same person that you've been talking to. I'm gonna fucking say some stupid shit. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's really interesting the terminology coming back and forth is what like a situationship that was never a thing 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Having a crush, I was like, what's that? That's like fifth grade. What, people say that still? I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I just totally lost my train of thought. What were you just saying?
What was I
Lost
just
it.
saying?
I lost it. I just lost it.
Dating
I had
apps.
nope. I got it back. I got it back. So this is kind of like lighten the mood up here a little bit with this, but I think it showcases. So I've kind of really stopped listening to a lot of music based podcasts and stuff like that because it's like I do this.
Mhm.
I get kind of frustrated when I think there should be it. Not every podcast needs to be like this, and I get that. Like especially with musicians or band people that you're into, you maybe don't want it to be heavy and serious life shit. Like maybe you just want to hear like, yeah, we were fucking around in the studio and fucking,
Mhm.
Devin farted into a pickup. And then that's what this like, thing that I threw an 808 on is like, that's what you
Man,
hear.
now I wish we did that.
But I mean, it's just like dumb shit like that, where it's like, that is funny and it's interesting. And it's a tidbit, like, Will like drumming on his dog's belly. And that became something in one of the Fit for
Mhm.
Autopsy records. Things like that are cool. But it's like, to me, it's like, you can get that a million other places. Where are
Yeah.
you going to get to like really quote unquote sit down and kind of hear someone that you admire like talk about real things?
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's important too, because like nothing pisses me off more than when I'm like feeling like shit and a podcast is just pretending like everybody's like having the best time of their life. Like I want to hear the people that look successful struggle too. Like I want to hear that shit.
that's a kink, I guess.
I want to make sure that I'm not the only one struggling here.
Yeah.
I got to know that other people are.
But I think for me, what's been interesting lately, and again, something I've been thinking a lot about is, I listen to a lot more comedy based things because you don't always have to kind of like keep a tight listen to it, especially when I'm
Mhm.
working. It's like you can just catch jokes and stuff like that. It makes you laugh, makes your day but go by.
I listen to Reddit stories for that same thing.
So is that a podcast you can listen to on something?
There's a few different podcasts that like it's just a crew of people. They read Reddit stories and just talk about them, but it's
Fair enough.
very casual listening.
But it's a thing where like I've always felt like I have a very quick brain. Like I very quick with jokes and
Mhm.
things like that. And that's aside like it sounds like I'm just plugging the other podcast, but like that was the thing I was worried about doing the other podcast because I was like, I'm doing what I do, which is I'm making jokes pretty consistently. I'm trying to make my friends laugh. And it's like I am the person that you're literally hearing right now talking about real serious shit, but
Mhm.
I'm also the person who thinks of a lot of things that I think are funny. But I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I kind of want to explore more of it. I kind of want to bring more of it into this. So you had just talked about like, oh, sometimes I'll say funny things or jokes and stuff like that. So we were in Vegas. So here is my question, and then I'll give you mine. What is like one of your favorite jokes you've come up with recently? And then
Uh,
I'll share mine if you don't have one right off the top of your head.
Go with yours because I don't necessarily have like I have like bits and I have like bits and then I have like sketch ideas. I don't really have jokes though.
So I think mine is falls under a bit, but it's almost more like storytelling joke. Um, so we were in Vegas and this past December for my anniversary with some friends, and we went to this Chinese restaurant called Ping Pang Pong, which I thought was funny in and of itself. And we got sat in the middle, and I you watch Seinfeld, so like you'll get this reference, but I was like when we walked in, I was like, oh, it must be really popular. There's a lot of Asians here.
That's
So
good.
and it was true. But it was funny because like the table we were sat at is like in the middle of the restaurant, and I'm facing like the back room essentially of like where more tables and such are. And I think I'm trying to remember. I think, oh yeah, I took some mushrooms. I think that was what it was. I taken some like mushrooms or smoked some weed or something. So I'm kind of like in a little bit of a my own head about shit. And then I happen to see this table of like probably 10, 12 people. And I see this like short, I'll say he's Asian. I don't know of what descent. And I see I just noticed the table's talking, but not with their hands like, gesturing, but like looks like sign language.
Mm-hmm.
So then my brain goes to, all right, well, there's American Sign Language, but is that the base sign language everyone learns? And then
That's
I'm kind
such
of
a high thought.
yeah, and then I'm looking around at the table, and it's like, and again, this is a very because I watched so many action movies from the 80s and 90s, very European, Germany looking faces. Like exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like if I showed them to you, you'd be like, oh, that's a bad guy from Die Hard.
100%. Yeah.
Or something like that. And so I'm looking around, and again, like they're all talking with their hands, and I see a lot of like separate conversations, sort of them all laughing, talking together. So then my brain's like, okay, like is ASL like the base language, or is that just me being an American thinking like, well, here in this country, like it's English and everyone talks English and it's the universal language here and kind of abroad. So then I'm thinking of like, well, if there are other languages, like, is it region specific? And then thinking about how like regionally specific dialect is around here.
Mm-hmm.
So then as everyone's laughing, like, so that's how my brain works. It's real questions I'm wondering in real time. And then immediately I then go, well, shit, do you think they are like us here in America? We're like, learn the language. So, and then that just got me laughing. Like, could you imagine going somewhere else and you start signing like, learn the language,
Yeah.
whatever language they're doing and saying it like that.
Yeah.
And I tell like my wife and friends and they fucking start dying laughing. And then I was telling another friend of mine who is born like over in Puerto Rico, but lives here and then has lived here in the States most of his life. And so I was telling him and he goes, well, because like I was like, well, is there like Chinese? Is there Spanish? Is there like, all these things? And he literally during our conversation, like as we're talking, he looks it up. He's like, oh, there is Spanish. And then I go, okay, bro, like how do you roll a fucking R with your fingers? And then he was like, I don't know. And I was like, I mean, because that's a part of Spanish. You got to roll your R's for like the certain words and so forth. Like, and then I was like, do they do that for like British sign language? They're like, hello. And then like color, like COLOUR or like yeah, some things like that. I was like, how do you, and then he's like, I don't know. And I was like, see, but like, there's my natural curiosity of like, does this exist? But then my mind just immediately finds a humorous way through it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, I would love to kind of start doing more of that. And like, I'm even a little trepidatious of leaving that in because I could see someone being like, you're a fucking asshole. And I'm like, I mean, kind of, sure. But like, it comes from a good place.
Yeah. Sometimes jokes can toe a line. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I just say my bit, my my bit for a while now has just been like yelling through text message. Like there's certain sometimes days of texts between me and somebody where I'm in all capitals just saying chaos. Or I have a friend that there was a 4-day period where we were just saying the same word back and forth in all capitals to each other, like
Marklar.
all day, like not just like we sent it once and then again at 8 p.m., like all day. So yeah, I don't know. Been big into that. Been big into blurry selfies lately. Blurry selfies has been a pretty long-standing bit for me. I don't know. Now that I'm on the spot, I can't think of any of my actual good stuff, but I always got something cooking.
I think another one, because we're two of my best friends and I were going to go to Chicago to see the farewell tour for Refused.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we were talking about booking hotels and stuff, I was like, well, I guess we got to get a king and then a queen. And I guess either because they're brothers. And I was like, so either Trevor with his fucking Top Gun mask, which is a CPAP machine. I go his Top Gun VR simulator. He like, I don't know if we want him on a king size by himself or we take the king and then we put him into his own little VR thing over here. But I was just like, from there, I was like, I would love that if that was a way to sell CPAP machines where you're just like, oh, especially after the success of Top Gun Maverick, where it's like, here's your fucking
That's good. That's a good marketing campaign for it.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's like, again, that's I know people need those things, but all I can think of when watching him attach this thing, and when I have to wake him up in the morning,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
just like, it looks like I should just start calling you Goose, because like you look dead and you got this
yeah.
like fucking thing all over
It's
your
like
face,
a
or
mix of
make it like
Top
a
Gun
face
and
hugger
Bane.
or a face
Or a
hugger.
face hugger. They
These are
should
missed
make
opportunities.
CPAP machines that are face huggers.
Yeah,
I
the
would buy
cord at the
one just
bottom.
for
Yeah.
that. I don't have sleep apnea, but I would get it just so that I could wear the face hugger mask.
That'd be so great. And this is why, like, I don't think anything, like, why sometimes when I have these conversations, like, I'm like, I can be, God, no, I sound like the South Park thing. I could be serious too.
Yeah, you gotta have your moments. You gotta be serious and silly, but sometimes serious sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. Kyle from Bad Wolves posted a thing where people were, I guess, hitting him up about, would Wolverine, something to the effect of like, could Wolverine fix his foreskin if he was circumcised or something like that
I
because of his
saw
like
him share that.
yeah, and then I was like, well, the real question is, would Wolverine's dick get hard and be erect just like his fucking? And then he was like, well, of course. And then I was like, and then I thought about like how funny it'd be for him to be circumcised, and that's how they come out, like the adamantium claws through the foreskin.
Now that would be good. That's a good
And I'm
way.
like,
That's a sneak attack right there too.
and then I was like, does Wolverine suffer from ED, like whiskey dick? Like, and then I go, I guess in Deadpool Wolverine, they sort of hinted at that when he couldn't get his claws out. But I was like, does Wolverine literally suffer from whiskey dick? Like, does it affect him like that? And then I was like, why is it that two 40-year-old men in 2025 are literally debating Wolverine's penis and how it gets erect and what does it look like?
You gotta have something, man. You gotta have something to make yourself smile through the day. If it's talking about Wolverine's dick, fucking A. That's my thoughts.
I bet it stinks just from being in that fucking outfit.
Probably. I wonder what superhero has the dirtiest dick.
It's got to be Beast, right?
I don't know. I'm not very well versed in superheroes. Aquaman's is probably the cleanest though.
But it's wet all the time. So
Yeah,
if he
but
has that suit, like, wouldn't it be all like gross and skin taggy? You'd imagine.
fish aren't skin taggy though.
Their
Right?
scales are skin tags, essentially, aren't they?
Yeah, but that's like saying your skin is a blanket. It's just there. I don't fucking know, man.
No, I think we need to get to the bottom of this real quick. Who would have the grossest balls or genitalia of superheroes? I still say maybe it's Toad from X-Men.
I feel like Green Goblin's got to have something cooking under there. That's
Oh,
a tight
his
suit.
pumpkin bombs. Pumpkins stink when they get gross.
Yeah. I don't know. My dick's pretty decently clean, so that's all I care about.
And this has been an ad for Manscaped. Use our code.
Yeah, that'd be fucking sick.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have the pull for Manscaped. I'm not hard lore over here.
Shout out Bo. Shout out Colin.
Two people individually who were supposed to be on the show over the years, and for one reason or another, just actually for Colin, it was because he got sick, and we were at the intersection, and we were trying to find a room, and he was like, "I can't yell over everything. Like I barely have a voice." Because back then he didn't really take care of it, which it sounds like even now he doesn't really take care of it.
Probably not.
And then I think during like one of the, not the last record, but the last Harm's Way record before that, when they were touring, actually it might have been with you guys. Wasn't there a tour I saw with you guys in Harm's Way?
Mm-hmm.
Opening?
That was a Knocked Loose tour.
Oh, then yeah, I was talking to Bo and God, I'm fucking terrible with names. Their singer, James, about having both of them on. They're like, yeah, and then nothing. I was like,
oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if the drinking aspect is what everyone gets hung up on, but
oh yeah, true. Straight edge guys, aversion.
I mean, I've had straight edge people on. I mean, you're straight edge again.
No, I'm not.
No, you're God, literally, fucking Corey from Norma Jean and I were talking about this morning. And again, speaking of Seinfeld, he was like, yeah, I've been sober for like almost 4 years now. And, I just think about like, I could probably have a beer or two and be fine, but I don't want to get on the wagon. Is it on the wagon, off the wagon? And then I was like, there's a whole fucking Seinfeld episode, and I still can't recall what it actually is.
I can't either.
I think when you're sober, you're on the wagon, and when see
I don't fucking know, man.
whatever. Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll give you a real fun, just to get a little spacey for a second. I've had a real fucking two things lately when I last did some mushrooms, and then even smoking weed. So smoking weed, I think that really gets to me is like, especially because my wife watches a lot of reality TV.
Those are super fun stoned.
Dude, the thing that gets me though is like, especially like if you watch like a Survivor or something like that, like one of our shows is the Challenge, and I just think about all the camera angles where like people where like people walk by, but then I'm like, well, you're not in this wide shot, so where the fuck was that camera? Do you reset up the shot and have them redo it? Like, how fucking weird is it to do this?
Dude, when I smoke weed, I get hyper aware of editing of TV and movies. Like,
yeah.
It's all I can think about. It's like how quick the shots are, how long they are. Like, has this been going on for too long?
Dude, when I took some mushrooms when we went to Nashville a couple of weeks ago, I got these things have hit faster and harder than I've ever. Like typically, it's like when you do mushrooms, the amount I do, it's like a third of an eighth. Usually lasts about 6, 7 hours, 8 hours total. This shit was like fucking 4 hours in and out. So it's like it hit way fucking faster than it needed to, and then like was over before I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
At one point, I'm just looking at this like rooftop deck like that we're at, and a bunch of people are just fucking cooked. And I like overheard some stories of people that had been drinking like most of the night before, slept because the bars out there open till like 4 a.m., slept for a couple hours, and then they're back at it like starting at like 8 o'clock the next morning. So at that point, it had been like 3-4 hours. And there's little kids with them, which I find equally as disturbing and weird. And I thought one was literally knew that I was all fucking cooked on mushrooms because he just kept staring at me. And I was like, he knows.
He knows something's up.
Yeah. But the epiphany I had though was, and this is, I know people are gonna be like, that is such a high thought, but I've been thinking a lot about how like money's not fucking real.
Well, yeah, it's just man-made.
Yeah, but it's like I was telling someone, I was like, yeah, like I recently like not defaulted on a bunch of credit cards, but I went through a like thing where it's consolidating and doing all this shit, and was a thing where like there was a credit card like I basically racked up to like to do stuff and experiences and like all that kind of stuff, knowing I was gonna pay it, and then they were just like, yeah, just don't pay that, and I was like, well, I just got that one, and they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And they've already settled it. They've already settled it for like I think total on that card was like $5,000, and they settled with this company for like 1,100. And right. I was like, money's not fucking real. Then like being in Nashville, like on the Broadway area, it's like there was a bar that used to be somebody else's, and apparently he went bankrupt. And like a few weeks later, like Jelly Roll's got one now in that spot, and I was like, what the, how can a business be so fucking bad and awful, but then someone else can just come right in and be like, no, now I'm that business.
Well, it's like too, and like the healthcare system, like you get a Tylenol from the hospital and it's $600, and then you confront them and go, why the fuck is this $600? They're like, all right, fine, take it off. Like it's just arbitrary numbers.
So it's like gas. That trips me out more lately when I've been thinking about it, is like, why is gas like $3.49 here, but if I go 2.5 minutes down the road, now it's $3.49. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what, isn't it the same gas? Like, I didn't know going 2.5 minutes down the road makes it worth more or worth less.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand how the gas prices go. I know there's some regulation on them, some not, but I don't fucking know. But yeah, money's not real as much as it feels real. It sucks. That's why I just spend it all. I don't have any fucking money to worry about.
Yeah, I think in light of what I just did, I was like, yeah, it's all not real. None of this shit's real.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, thank you, mushrooms and weed and stuff like that, for making me have this epiphany that I'm like, none of this shit's real. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Well, I thought maybe you're about to say add to it other than just yeah.
I was
No.
going to, and then I was like, what I'm gonna say isn't gonna make any sense.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah.
So to
Isn't it
kind of
crazy though that money's not real and it makes people kill themselves? Isn't that
sure,
fucked?
or they'll kill for it.
Yeah, or that.
Yeah,
Isn't that fucking crazy? I hate money. I hate it, but I
yeah,
love when I have it so much.
same.
It's the sickest thing in the world when I have it. It's the
I mean,
goddamn devil when I don't.
yeah, a lot of things now that, and as I get older, where I'm like, I basically have turned into the person I hated as like a kid in high school, and slightly out of things where I'm like, nah, man, you got to be in shape. Like, why are you smoking weed when you could be playing basketball with your friends? And I'm just like, oh, I mean, I get it. Go smoke some weed, then go play basketball with your friends. That's probably fun. You're not going to probably play very well, but who gives a shit?
I feel like I went the opposite. I was like a little good kid where I was like, drugs are bad. And
Yeah,
then
same.
even into like my 20s when I was straight edge, I was like, drugs are bad. And now I'm like, but as a 13-year-old, I was like, man, drugs are cool. Look at what Pantera did. I thought drugs were so cool.
Drugs are Pantera.
And now at least like now, I mean, the only drug I do is weed, and that's not real. So yeah, it's kind of the opposite of what you're saying for me, I guess. I just wanted to go off on that caveat.
I think it's been really interesting. Like, I will always throw the thing of like, I get it if it's not your thing. I don't necessarily think everyone has to do it. I understand that some people have very addictive personalities. That's just not really mine. I just, at this point, like, I was literally telling my buddy the other day, because like I remember like on an acid trip when we were at a couple, like probably 4 or 5 months ago. We were at a casino, so we were staying self-contained. So I was like, I'm gonna do this. I know where I'm at.
Mhm.
Nothing really can be bad of this. And I remember like, and I never do an amount where it's like, oh my God, I'm in another fucking dimension. It's like, I'm very aware of what's happening. It's just the right amount to have a good time.
Mhm.
And, but it's like when I do that, like almost anytime I do any of that, like even smoking weed before bed, it's like, I just want to like kind of be present and in the moment, not be overthinking about shit and just having a good time,
Mhm.
whatever that looks like. And I remember like with the casino, like on acid, I was just like, I just want to like go to this machine that makes me feel good, that makes me want to be there. And I kept winning money, oddly. I'd be like, I like at one point I remember telling a friend, I was like, I want something with a wheel. And they're like, all right, let's go find a wheel. And then like they're like, what about that one? I was like, I don't like that one. I want
It's not the
something
right
bright.
wheel.
Not the right wheel. I won like $250 on it when I sat
Fuck
down at the
yeah.
machine I wanted.
When you found the right wheel, hell yeah.
I found the right wheel. But it usually reaffirms that I should listen to more of how I feel internally. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not gonna probably lead myself astray. I'm
Mhm.
not going to put myself in bad situations. Like, if I just am truthfully honest with what I want out of
Yeah.
something. The flip side of it is, I remember like Bridget had bought me a Jack and Diet or whatever. And every time I would get up, I would forget I had it. I'm like, oh, fuck, I got to grab this thing I don't even want. And it's so weird that when I'm on these things, like, it just makes me not want to drink ever.
Yeah. That makes
And
sense.
it does, but it's kind of weird because it's like, that's always kind of been a thing I think I'm known for too, is like, yeah, you can usually put them away, but
Put
it's
'em
like,
down.
yeah, but it's like now I'm like, I'd rather do this. And I've even said to people, like, economically, it makes more sense to get like an ounce of shrooms for like $100, and that'll last me for a few months
Mhm.
versus that same 100 being spent literally in one night at the bar.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And I'll learn more, hopefully learn more about myself and things around me. So I feel like it's a more of a net positive than it is anything
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't gone down the psychedelic
psychedelic.
route yet, but I want to. But I like
I'd be interested to see what you tap into, because I've definitely noticed since doing therapy and kind of getting more into it, it's really interesting when you're very present and you're very honest with yourself, because you're not, sometimes it just kind of makes you force you to deal with whatever you maybe been putting off.
Mhm.
Then when you have the therapy tools to deal with it,
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what it does for you.
Yeah, me too. I really wanna, like, lock myself in a room with just a guitar and a MacBook also, and just see what happens. Like,
That's a Patreon album right there.
it could be the most amazing thing I ever do, or I don't even know how to record. Like it could be either or, you know?
This is the real It Comes in Waves.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is the new Dope Smoker album.
Yeah. Or it could just be like, okay, yeah, he did not know what the fuck he was doing. Could be
Yeah.
one dad rock riff loop for 10 minutes because I couldn't think of anything to fix on it.
So, I mean, that's as good of a segue as we'll get into. I gotta say, it seems like, since you started playing, with these other bands, it just when you post, like even being at practice or whatever, it just seems like you're so happy. Like you found like a happy place again.
Yeah.
And I like it sounds so like I feel kind of stupid being like, from what you post and what I see, but when I see it, it's like I know what happiness looks like in other people. I can
Mhm.
identify it. And
Yeah.
so I feel like even when you're just, you know, oh, we're all kind of locking in just like for a fucking stupid breakdown riff because we think it's funny. And
Yeah.
then you guys are all laughing and smiling while you're doing it. And it's like I don't feel like there would have been that maybe 2 years ago.
No, I don't think so. I think over the last year of just being me on my own, I've really like discovered a different love for this music. Like aggressive music's always been in my life, but like I guess I've gotten a little bit more involved in like the local like hardcore scene, and I've like all the bands I play in are hardcore bands. All my friend like the Raleigh music scene is super like incestuous where we're all just in the same bands. So it's like I've just gotten more I think I've gotten more out of life in general in this music than just songwriting. Like I've I can hit up friends in different states, be like, "Hey, my band's trying to come up there. I want to play a show." Like, I feel more connection right now than I think I ever have, which is kind of ironic because one would argue that playing in the Acacia Strain to bigger crowds every night would have more connection, and to in some degrees it did, but I feel like I'm just more connected with like people right now. Like I think it's the first time in my life. Well, okay, let me back it up too. I think 2024 was the first time in my life I needed hardcore music. I think it's the first time I ever truly like didn't know how to feel and I needed something to ground me. That like socially. Like obviously like playing guitar always grounds me, but like I needed something that could put me somewhere that would make me feel what I'm feeling, but in a better way. So all I do is like when especially right after I split with my ex, like all I did was go to shows. And I've made a lot of friends that way and playing a lot of shows, like whether it's in my own bands, filling in with other bands, which I love to do. It's just been a better experience overall. Like it's just become, I think, more of my life than just a separate piece. Cause like when you have a partner and you're like doing like when you have a partner and you're touring, you kind of have two lives going on at once. Like you've got your music career and you're quite literally on the road life. And then you've got your home life that you have to, while you're off tour, like try to maintain some stability. And now like I feel like it's just kind of one personality and life in me, and I'm having more fun playing music. I'm having more fun just being at shows because I lost that passion for going to shows for a really long time. And just like I'm learning more about the people I want to be around from it. So like a lot of the like posts that you see me make now, like of being at practices or playing shows, it's like I feel like I'm really enjoying it because I'm purposely there the whole
Hmm.
time. Um, and I don't want that to sound like touring felt like, oh, I just had to show up because that's not the case. But like for a long time, I didn't feel that connection from the personal side, I think. And now that that's back and stronger than it ever was, I think there's just so much more joy that I get out of playing this music and just
Well,
playing music in general.
I would also wonder if part of it is, and I understand, like, fully understand that this is not due to the band or the size of the band, but it's like when you get to the level of like the Acacia Strain or something like that, where you're touring in venues and stuff, there's so many like insurances and liabilities and so forth that it's like the connection that I feel like hardcore and metal is supposed to kind of be, where you're like, especially hardcore shows, where you're literally on top of and right in front of. There's no separation of fan and band. It's kind of one entity.
Yeah.
And to kind of distill it or kind of take away some of that by like having a barricade that's 5-10 feet away from you and some of these other things, it loses some of the immediacy of that draws you to it, that it makes you feel. And I feel like I think there was a video or a post that you made somewhat recently, like the last week or so, but it's like literally like a person was able to like could have just literally touched your fucking shoes, like you were only like a few feet taller than that person, and they like there was nothing separating you, they were right there. And to me, it's like I feel like, for as much as when you go to a lot of those shows, you get the horseshoe around where people are like, I don't want to be in the pit, I don't want to do this. There's something kind of cool about going to like smaller, more local shows where it's like it's not really a thing. Like people are kind of right there and they're right next to you or right on top of you.
Yeah.
And it just kind of reminds, like I said earlier, it kind of brings it back to the why.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think that's a big part of what makes these. I think that's a big part of what makes like hardcore music in general just beautiful, is like that there is that blurred line of like band and fan kind of thing. Like I truly feel like it is a community when it's done properly. But yeah, like there was times with the Acacia Strain where, I mean, one of my favorite shows we ever played was the Ghost Inside show at the Palladium. It was like the first show that we played after the pandemic. So it would been
So
like,
bummed I didn't go to that.
it was really awesome. But the memory I have is more from watching a video back, because like there was a barricade 20 feet away from us, and it's like, yeah, there's 8,000 people here, but I can't, like, I can't reach out and touch anybody. So it's interesting. There's definitely two schools of thought from that aspect, but I've definitely noticed, as much as I like want to obviously play bigger and bigger shows for my whole life, the most fun ones are the ones that are at the smaller venues. And like, because there is that connection, like I want people to, like, hardcore's supposed to be about connection, at least to me. I don't think it's supposed to be about like who can out mosh each other and who can fucking, I don't know, write a harder riff, even though I will challenge everybody to write harder riffs. But fucking, I don't know, like it's not supposed to be like this rock star versus peasant thing. And I think a lot of bands, I think that's why, as much as I think hardcore is in an amazing place, why it also still kind of pisses me off, because I will catch people cool guying people, and I'm just like, this cheapens everything so much. Like, it's so easy to just, it's so fucking easy. This is the takeaway from this whole thing. It's so fucking easy not to be an asshole. It's insane. And I know that I just took that answer completely to another realm, but it's so easy to not be an asshole. And I feel like I meet more people in hardcore who are not assholes because we have this. If that makes any connection back to the original thing that we were mentioning.
No, it does. And this will kind of be the last thing, and then we can kind of wrap this up because I don't want to keep you too much longer. But
Oh, I'm chilling. I'm good.
I gotta get ready for bed here soon for work. So it's a thing for me where I've been going to a lot more like smaller shows,
Mm-hmm.
and
I've
so
been going to a lot of local shows also, which has been really exciting.
I'm gonna sound really fucking shitty when I say this, but the handful of times I go out to local shows, I don't feel like it's worth my time of even going.
There's a lot of bad local bands. I'm lucky that
So
Raleigh's got a really good local scene.
here, and we used to have a really, really fucking good scene. And I was actually talking to one of the guys I used to live with that was in a band that made me come out here when I didn't live here in Grand Rapids. And like the Intersection main room, like they, like for their CD release, had all locals way back in the day and sold that out. 4 locals.
Yeah.
Sold out like the main room of the Intersection. Could never do that now.
No.
The egos involved, like, let alone would never let that happen. But something, my wife was into this band Archers, and like they're basically an independent band. The whole tour I think was basically independent, but like independent, like, but doing well. Like, to where, like, Archers is out right now with, like, the Funeral Portrait. They did a tour with, like, Memphis Mayfire. So, like, they're kind of growing.
Mhm.
And was a thing where, like, it's 3 bands I had never heard of. And everyone sounded great. And I thought to myself, what happened? Like, I don't think there's an entry point anymore. Like, bands can just not have good songs. But the crazy thing is like, everyone sounds great. Like,
Yeah,
there's
it's
no
kind of
like, oh,
fucked up.
you're an obvious local band. This is a big band. This is a signed band. Like, there's not that delineation anymore in
Yeah.
sound quality. And I feel like that's just a fucked up thing to me. When I realized that, I was like, everyone can sound good now. There
Seriously.
should be no reason why you can't play good, unless
Yeah.
it's just literally comes down to you suck. And I hate
Yeah,
to say
or
this.
don't try. Like, you don't actually give a shit.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's funny you say that because I was having the same thought earlier today. I was just like, I forget what I was doing. I was like showering or like, I don't know, fucking getting dressed, and I just had my
looking at your
Spotify
slow
playing.
hole.
Yeah, looking at my slow hole. Uh, just like had my Spotify on. Like, I think I was on like ceremony radio or some shit, like trash talk radio or some shit. Um, Actually, no, I'm sorry. I put on Negative Force, which is a band from New Jersey. I just became pretty good buddies with their guitar player. But I put his band on, and then I was kind of like shuffling through just different smaller bands that I'm into, and I was just like, every band is good now. Like, it's so there's so many good bands that it's like, how do you stand out at this point? And also, like, on the flip side of that, it's like, why are you wasting time listening to bad shit? There's so much bad shit that like is soulless and means nothing, and there's so much good shit that has like emotion behind it, you know? I don't know. There's so many fucking bands out now. It's so hard to keep track of, but there's so many good ones.
There's just been this trend lately, and this is like my new thing as of like 2 or 3 days ago. So I'm noticing this trend, and basically, like, and I'm gonna say one, and you'll be like, I might have seen this one, I might have seen the other one. It's this fucking dickhead looking asshole who usually wears a fucking tank top, and he's got his guitar. He's not playing it, but it's got an American flag on it, and it always just comes with him like jumping off of something, and then like the lyrics are like, with our flag with our hands held high and blah blah
Oh
blah blah
god.
blah. Just, it sounds like some fucking Matt Stone, Trey Parker bullshit lyrics, but
Yeah.
it's this person trying.
Oh no.
And then, but it's like, if you look at all of his posts, it's like, oh, here's one in Times Square. Here's one wherever the fuck he is. Here's another. And it's the same part of the song, him
Yeah.
doing the exact same shit over and over and over again. But that's like 40 posts on his
Yeah.
Instagram.
Dude,
There's
it's
another,
crazy.
there's another dude like it's got like, I call it like ramen noodle hair. It looks wet, but also dry at the same time. It looks awful. And he is doing what the best is, as what I could describe as like country trap,
Uh-huh.
for lack of a better term. And it's also the same shit. And the auto tune, like, so one of my two favorite comments on this guy, one was like, he looks like a wet cigarette butt as a person. And then another one was like, usually auto tune makes you sound better. But it's just this thing where, like, as I keep seeing it, I'm like, okay, like, I don't know when this became the thing, and I guess it's always been the thing to just kind of beat a chorus over your head ad nauseum until you like it.
Mhm.
But this trend of like making that all your posts are, and to break
Yeah.
a song, and I noticed it last year or so with Papa Roach with that Leave a Light On song, where it was like Jacoby and the band were just posting every single day, like, oh, we're in the loading dock and here we are, we're just playing this acoustic song. Oh, now we're like somewhere else. Oh, now the only one I actually thought was cool was we're playing it in the green room, and then it's them in front of the stadium or the arena
Mhm.
they're in, like full. Like, that
Yeah.
was cool. But
That's cool.
it was a thing where I was like, with these other quote unquote artists, it's like, is the point to just go viral and have a moment, regardless if people like the song or hate it? It's just to have the engagement and just to have that moment? Which, if that's the case, what does that say about your art if you don't even give a fuck? And the point is just, I want people to see it and go viral. I don't care if they like my song. I don't care if
Mhm.
they hate it. I just know that if I do this and it's cringy and it's all these things, I have a better shot at doing it. And it's like, I just think that as an artist and people dealing with people usually on this show who I think have a lot of integrity for what they do, I just think it like just diminishes everything. And it's like, is that really the world we're in? Excuse me. But then also on the other side, like we just said, everyone has the ability to sound good. So how
Mhm.
do you then listen back to this, go, that's great, putting it on the internet, versus God, this sounds like shit. I should
Yeah.
do something and make it better.
Yeah. Well, I think I wonder if, because I noticed that too. I forget who it was. Somebody came up on my Instagram feed. She was like viral for a minute. She's like got the crazy big dreads, and she's like a white rapper
Yeah,
who
yeah,
loves
yeah.
talking about drugs or whatever.
Yeah, I know who you're
Um,
talking about.
and
She's
everybody,
got a trust fund kid, apparently, I found out.
she went viral because she's cringy, like one of those. But like, um, wait, what was the last thing you just said?
She's a trust fund kid, and she has an OnlyFans. So
Oh,
everyone's like, that's where she gets all her money, and the music's not real. It's just to lure you into the other
yeah,
shit she's selling.
yeah. Well, I mean that makes sense. I never trust any of the fucking big internet influencer people anyway. But like the I like her page popped up and I was looking at it and I was scrolling and I was like, this is just the same chorus, like 30 videos or like 3 different 1 minute clips of songs. I was like, is this is this because people's attention spans are so low, or is this them just trying to defeat the algorithm? Because like it's kind of crazy how it almost is like the algorithms with like blocking so many people from sharing their content. It's almost like it's leveled the playing field again with like for a minute it was like every band got big because everyone was just like, holy shit, I could find this band. This band sounds perfect because they wrote everything on a computer, like this or that. But I don't know, like it's like it makes me wonder, like, what if that is the attention span and people not giving a shit and like lack of integrity versus what is them just being like, something's gotta show up on their feeds?
So I would almost question, because something like again, like a dude who just like popped up a long time ago, but like he's I'm just gonna say how I know him to be. I don't know his name, but he's kind of a fat white dude who does like a lot of like that rap, heavily auto-tuned like trap rap shit with like emo,
Mhm.
like kind of like Juice World-ish, but
Yeah.
not nearly as good.
Mhm.
Kind of like trippy, more like a real shitty like Trippy Red.
Okay.
um, but it was a thing where he would like, oh, I'm a pretend to be the producer, but then I'm also coming in as the person rapping or doing whatever, and then
Mhm.
it's the song, and you hear the chorus. I remember reading so many comments on that because I'm like, what do people think of this? Like, I mean, it's the same fucking video essentially over and over again, slightly different situations as to what the video is.
Mhm.
But someone's like, dude, you've been saying you're gonna drop this song. It's been fucking 2 months. Where is it? So
Yeah.
then it makes me wonder, because a lot of people like I'm sure I could come up with like actually I do remember because with my shitty guitar head, it's got a looper in it,
Mhm.
but it only goes for like 20 seconds or
Mhm.
so. But I can stack on like 3 to 4 layers or so of shit. And so at one point, like I'd use like the AM setting, like the AM radio type setting, like the fader.
Yeah.
So it kind of like I'll do like a cool like breakdowny type sounding riff or whatever, and then I'll kind of bring in like a single note like trem thing over that, and then do some
Mhm.
other stuff. And then right when the thing should kind of come in, that's when it doesn't.
Right.
And then so like I sent it to a friend, like, oh, check out this thing I spent like the last 40 minutes building. And he was like, dude, what the fuck? Blue balls, where's the rest? And I was like, and thought of that then watching that video, and I'm like, what if that's all that is? Like that dude only came, or these people only come up with that 30 seconds, and there
Probably
literally is
is.
nothing else until they do the next thing. Or it showcases that there's enough demand that
Mhm.
it's
And
almost
then
like
they
a test
finally finish
where it's
something.
like, make me a sizzle reel before I invest in your movie.
Yeah.
Make me a short, and then if it looks cool and it sounds good, then I'll invest more, and then we can make the full thing. That I'm
Mhm.
wondering if like that's what it's becoming. Like music is sort of becoming now, is just we don't give a fuck about the actual thing. Just give us the thing, the chorus. Don't bore us. Get to the chorus.
Yeah.
Like I'm wondering if that's what it's getting devalued down to. Is just like, well, I only want the 30-second thing because that's the best part. The
Mhm.
rest is whatever.
That's when punk and hardcore is gonna be at the peak. 'Cause
Well, yeah, because
'cause
that's
the best
prime for them.
the best bands only have the riff. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's a fucking slippery slope that I kinda can't think about it, like, the idea of, like, people only caring about that 30 seconds. It's like, my whole reason for being here is useless if that's the case. But
Yeah.
it's fucked up. It's a really, really weird time for art. It's so simultaneously the best it's ever been and the worst. Like, it there's so many chances to make something of yourself, but so little value on it. Like, I mean, fucking the biggest piece of shit that I think is entering this world is AI. Like, that's gonna literally ruin the world. One, have you seen Terminator 2? We
Yeah.
know what they can do. Two, like, what is this world without art? And when is it gonna be gone from like actual humans creating it?
I mean, so my podcast sponsor and I did an Instagram live thing like 2 weeks ago as when we're doing this. And leading up to it, like we were kind of joking, like we're like, oh, it'll be the Monday monthly merch minute thing because we'll talk about like now that I'm back in screen printing, talk about trends and stuff that they've got like drops that they were doing. And so in my head, I was like, oh, that's such a stupidly long title that like all I can think of is like some Japanese game show, bright lights, and just this long title.
Uh-huh.
So I put that into like Chat GPT, which reminds me I need to cancel that subscription because it totally didn't fucking work. But it was a thing where I was pretty fucking specific where I like to the point. I would just be like, spell rockabilly right. And I would type it in and it couldn't even do that.
Really?
And then I'm like, okay, like this design's cool, but instead of doubling up where it says monthly merch, Monday merch minute, it's like take out the one monthly, but then it'd redo the whole design. And I'm like, no, like,
Yeah.
and then I would even be like, keep this design, take out this part. And I would be so fucking specific and it couldn't do it. And I'm like,
Mhm.
and that was sort of the joke that like Frankie and from Rockabilly and I were joking about. It's like, I don't think AI is really going to do all that everyone thinks it's going to because it can't even fucking type in a fucking thing that I tell it to and it's spelled
Yeah.
correctly.
I mean, I
Like
fucking hope that's the case.
if it can't even do that, then you know what? I don't think Skynet's coming for us anytime soon, and that timeline's been way off.
Good. The timeline has definitely been very off. I will give it
Yeah.
that.
Um. So, at this point, you put out for two out of your three bands. You dropped new music. I
Mhm.
assume. I'm trying to remember. It was Suburban Scum. I think put out an EP. That wasn't Natural End, or was it Natural End? That was the other one that did too. So Demonize is the only one that hasn't yet.
No,
In recent,
Scum hasn't done anything new. Demonize new EP comes out in 10 days, and Natural End first full album came out
that was it.
January
Okay.
3rd, I think it was.
Okay.
I say full album, but it's 9 songs, 12 minutes. So whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, you're perfecting that 30, 45-second algorithm.
That's what we're trying for, man. Trying to make the big bucks off of hardcore. That's why we get into it.
What has been a thing that you like? Because I feel like when you're in different bands, I feel like obviously it's the people in it, but like you said,
Mm.
it's very incestuous. It's a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
So what is it about being in these different bands that you feel like gives you a different voice than the other ones allow you to have?
Well, they definitely. I mean, Scum. I kind of consider like half a band because like that's not half a band in the sense of like being derogatory towards it, but like we don't do a ton of shit. Like play a show every couple months. We don't really know what the next step is. So for now, it's kind of like a half band. But with Demonize and Natural End, they're two very different sounding bands. Demonize is definitely a bit more of the like finessey metal guitar playing. Like we basically just want to rip off like Sepultura, Marauder, and Slayer, which is like giving us way more credit than like saying that we sound like any of those bands is way more credit than we deserve. But that's like what that mindset is, like actually being like pretty serious and like thought out, like taking like multiple practice sessions together to write a song and everything. And then Natural End is like we're just kind of five dudes that like to hang out and write fast, angry shit. So like Natural End is gaining steam and we're doing nothing about it. In like that sense, like we're like, I don't know, it's just very much fun and relaxed. And I think we're all kind of just like, yo, wherever this goes, this is cool. Like the fact that anybody gives a shit is cool. But yeah, so it's just like two very different thought processes. Like I go to natural end because I could be like stoned and have fun and laugh around with my friends, and then Demonize, it's like, okay, I got to pretend to be Jeff Hanneman right now and like get into it, you know. But really just fucking playing guitar, man. Like I try to play in as many bands as possible. Like any chance to fill in with bands, I always want to. Like I think last year I played within a span of like a month and a half, I played sets with like 5 different bands, which like for like a normal everyday gigging musician is nothing, but like I don't know, Suburban Scum, Haywire, Natural End, Demonize, and then another band, Old Sons. Like that's 5 pretty solid acts to have to play in all within like 5 weeks of each other. So just like the challenge and just liking to play different stuff is really what keeps it exciting and just like motivating, you know, like to know that I can write something for one band that sounds like this and be like, okay, well, I'm kind of burnt out on thinking about this. Let me try something else for this band. So it's good to like bounce around from.
I wonder, was there any trepidation with any of the people you've played with of like from their end to you?
What do you mean?
So again, I'll use my example. So I remember like the guy I was talking about earlier that was in a band that it was like the first band in a local sense that I heard on the radio locally one day. And I was like, oh my God, a local band can sound like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was rad. And then going to see them and becoming friends with them to eventually living with the dude down the road. And I remember like learning these songs that I grew up being like, oh, these songs are so fucking cool. And then kind of being in an iteration of that band
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of writing some stuff myself. And there was a point where I never wanted to play or write in front of him because I was like, this is kind of awkward because like you were someone that made me feel like I held you at a certain level. Like you did all these things that I was like, I'm not that good.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if like adversely, like people have that same thing maybe with you where they're like, well, I mean, fuck, like you've been at this level. I'm not at that level. I've never been at that level. So I don't feel like I could play with you because of that, because of this preconceived notion
Mm-hmm.
of who they thought you were musically.
Yeah, I don't think I have ever got. I don't if that's ever happened. No one's ever told me it, but I think more than anything, people just know that I'm really particular with who I work with. Like I don't I don't just like jam with anybody. Like I really have to know who kind of like gets it. So I think anybody that I am playing with, like we've kind of both weeded each other out a bit in that sense, you know, like yeah, people and I mean honestly, like I'm pretty I had some I was in a great time period of the Acacia Strain, but like my name's Tom Smith. I was in the band towards the like later years. Like no one really cares that I was in that band. At least to me, it seems that way. So I don't think there's much of that. And if it does exist, then I'm not aware of it.
Just one of those, like maybe my perception of knowing things like that. Like, because like I said, my example was just like my personal thing where it was like, oh, this is kind of weird to me
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, I always joke like, no one, hardly anyone really has heard me ever play because I'm like, no, I don't think I'm that great. I'm tolerable at best. But it's always funny, like when I have people sometimes come over, it's been a real equalizer because like there will be some people and they play a different style than the way I play.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, oh fuck, I suck. I wish I had like your tone, or I wish I played more cleanly like that, or this style that it's not really my style and it's not necessarily what I'm into. But I feel like as a guitar player to a guitar player, I look at it and go, oh, well, I don't have that. So I'm lesser then.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's funny because I know for me being more into metal and stuff like that, I'm more of a right hand dominant player. And everyone's like, I wish I had a right hand that could do stuff like that. And it's like, this dumb thing that I can like
Right
any
hand's more
fucking asshole,
important.
every asshole could fucking do anything like just fucking chug an open note
No,
or
they
whatever.
can't.
And to
You'd
me,
be shocked at how many people cannot.
I mean, I also am not the greatest at it either, but it's still funny to just it's a reminder that I think the perception is we always want what we don't have, and then the perception
Mhm.
is if you don't have that, then you're lesser than. And so I feel like music's one of those like things where we often get so in our own fucking heads about it, and it really shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was more or less getting to the point of, was just like, was there a thing where it was like, oh, there was some trepidation of someone being like, oh man, I don't know. Like you got like a quad cortex and all shit, and you know how to like do all these things without like you're more tech savvy than I
Mhm.
would. Like that would intimidate me, where I'd be like, well, I don't know how to use any of those Star Trek machines you got over there.
Probably on the yeah, I think on the gear side a little bit. Not crazy amount. The Demonize guitar, the other guitar player in Demonize, he plays guitar in Bitter End. So like he's got
Good
some
gear.
some good experience, and like he's like a gearhead. So he and I fucking nerd out with each other. And the other guys in Natural End and two of the other guys in Demonize were also in Joy. I don't know if you know that band. They're like a Raleigh
Name
grind
sounds familiar.
power violence band. Um, they were together. They broke up, I think, 2 years ago. But like they've like toured and done a lot of stuff too. So they like it was kind of just like, no, we all have been through some really cool stuff musically. Like let's all just get together and do it together. So that's I think the gear thing though, like the singer of Demonize plays guitar in another band, and he's always like watching me program stuff in, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "I just get away. I know what I'm doing. I can't explain it, you know." But yeah, I don't think I think I think I do a pretty good job of not coming off as somebody to be intimidated by musically, because I don't think I'm very good at it.
Well, I think as someone who has watched you play and like I said, watched a lot of your processes of writing and recording and stuff like that, and hearing you talk, it's something that I would definitely be able to say that I think you take a lot of pride in what you do. And so therefore, from my perspective, it's like that's a very serious guy when it comes to this. Like he's not gonna half-ass any of this. And
Mhm.
I would, if I was playing or in something with you, I at least have to come with that level of knowledge and respect to this thing to not even remotely waste your time.
Yeah, I think I kind of sometimes I have to remember I have to leave the touring mindset behind, like when I'm at a show and a band runs over their set because they
Oh,
took
that
too
never
long to
goes away.
sign up or
That
to
never
set
goes
up.
away.
I'm like, everyone else is like, they don't care that much, and I'm sitting there like, these fucking assholes. They're they're coiling their cables up and undoing their cymbals on stage. Get out of here, like shit like that. But yeah, I don't know. I try to really not be a prick about just anybody and their show, because I know that everybody just wants to have a good time. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. There's definitely moments where I have to be like, okay, pull it back. You're not in that setting right now, you know?
Yeah, I just saw a Facebook memory that was like, not this local band that wasn't ready at all, and now they are setting up all of their drums
Yeah.
on stage. Like it wasn't pre-set up to where you just kind of connect all the pieces. It was no, literally piece by piece. And I was like,
Yeah,
God, what the
pulling
fuck are
symbols
you
out of
doing?
cases.
Yep, it was awful.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for doing this and being a part of my episode 500 week. I know, like, we said kind of in the beginning, it's been a few years since we really sat down and had a conversation like this. But,
Mhm.
this is a glaring example of why I wanted you on, because it just is what it is. And we've always been able to talk about anything and everything very easily.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I always really enjoy coming on for that reason.
it's not something that like we're kind of alluding to earlier, that in this day and age now, people hiding and pretending to be something they're not behind screens and so forth, that's never been a thing right off the gate, or right off the bat I should say, between us. And
Mhm.
it's one of those where you've lived a lot more of a life than I feel like I have, but I feel like maybe a small part of it I went through more recently, whereas like yours was spread out over more of a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just one of those where I was like, I think there's something really good if we link back up and do this, that a lot of good will come out of it. I think for ourselves and hopefully for those that take the time to spend the whole 2 hours that we've been talking, listen to it.
Yeah.
So I thank you for the time, B, your friendship, and just everything that you have done for me over the years, hooking up with guest lists and time and all that kind of stuff. Because like I said, and Hab said, time is the one thing we all have. It's the most valuable asset that we can give to somebody. And you've always been more than gracious with yours. So I just want to thank you for being a part of this.
Of course, dude. I appreciate it. I've had fun since the first time we've come on, and now it's like for a minute I'm like, oh yeah, we're recording. I'm just talking to my buddy,
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate you always having me on, and it's always a really, really good time, and it's nice to talk more personal level than a lot of interviews that I've done where it's a lot of surface level stuff. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I let you go, anything you would like to plug or anything online?
Listen to new Demonize. That'll be out probably by the time this comes out. The 14th, the Demonize record comes out. Listen to Natural End, Sprawl. That's the record. Demonize is called An Ends to the Means or A Means to an End. I can't remember which way. I literally can't remember the real version of that phrase now. Whatever the real phrase is, it's the opposite of that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And follow TW Smith Guitars. That's the main chunk. Obviously, also follow Suburban Scum. I keep forgetting I'm in that band.
And then yourself, your socials for yourself.
Oh yeah. TSmith678 is my Instagram where you could see me post what I'm wearing every day and annoying all my friends. And I'm on Facebook, but nobody needs to know that. That's the only thing I'm really on. Letterboxd, I'm TSmith678. Talk movies with me. That's about it.
We should do that sometime for shits and giggles. I kind of want to do a Twitch thing. This is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll be done. I realize like how weird, like there's things people just never seen that you think because it's such a part of your life or growing up or whatever that you're like, oh, everyone knows this.
Oh yeah,
and
people always get real surprised about that.
So when I was trying to do this on Twitch, but unfortunately I'm always like, if something needs to come down or get edited out, I don't want there to be like the live element there where it's like, I mean, I can snag it after the fact, but people have already heard
me. Out, yeah.
So that's why I stopped doing it. But there was one night, like I watched Haggard,
like the CKY.
Yeah, video? And the amount of people who were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Dude,
and I was like,
"Yeah."
And I was like, "Wait," like because it was a lot of people. Like one of my friends was finishing their thing, and then they rated mine, and like most of the people that came from it, it was like right when Ryan Dunn was jerking off to his own ass, and then just people were like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was like, "Haggard," and they're like, what like, and I was like, what, you don't know? Like, yeah, beat the fuck off to that, like you don't know that.
Yeah.
And then it just made me feel so weird, and I was like, oh, I wonder how many more movies like that I have in me that I'm like, what, you've never seen this?
Oh
like,
yeah,
I quote this shit all the time.
Yeah. Dude, Airheads is one that people haven't seen a lot that I quote all the time.
Oh, I love that
like,
movie.
How do you not know? Like, this is a fucking movie. But yeah, that's that there itself is a show, like just about movies that haven't been seen. But yeah, I'll let you do the podcast work on that.
maybe that'll be a weird fun thing. We just like hop on like once every couple of months and just watch a weird ass movie.
Hell yeah, I'm always
just
down
for, even if it's movies. Just for us and no one comes and watches. It'll be like, this is just us doing this.
Fine with me. We watched The Curse of Humpty Dumpty. That's one I watched last year that really stuck with me. It's on Peacock. The Curse of Humpty Dumpty and The Cult of Humpty Dumpty.
So is it like in the same the Poonaverse of like the blood and honey and all that? Like, is it like that?
No, it's just a Humpty Dumpty movie that sucks.
Okay. I really would be cool if it was Digital Underground's Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah.
The one that got me recently a couple of years ago was Keith Buckley when he was doing his Twitch streaming. He watched The Greasy Strangler.
Oh God,
have you seen
Never
that?
Seen that? No, but
oh boy, I think that's where we should start if we do this. Is with The Greasy Strangler, because it is fucking bananas.
I'm down.
There we go. Well, thank you again for the time, and looking forward to catching up off of this and maybe seeing you down the road. Since we got a friend that lives in Charlotte, so
Fuck yeah, I'll make that drive.
there we go.